Okay, it's fine. I think it's working.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm Thomas Grimshaw, and I'm part of the International Competition Selection Committee, and I'm co-moderating this talk with
Eric Lemke. I'm part of the National Selection Committee. So we will also divide that. Thomas will present the international teams and me the national teams. And we will introduce every team with a little scene from their films. And as we are all very spontaneous, we managed to talk about you two guys of the film Biegen und Brechen first, because you have a screening, an important screening, you have to go afterwards. So please, let's start just for a first impression. With Biegen and Brechen, a scene from the film of Falk Schuster and Mike Plitt.
Zu meiner Mutter gibt es zu sagen, dass sie eigentlich ein völlig unglücklicher Mensch ist und war, dass sie aber ein ziemlich hohes Gerechtigkeitsbewusstsein hat. Sie hat halt oft auch ein schlechtes Timing gehabt und hat auch oft das halt in Situationen und vor Leuten gesagt, wo sie es halt besser nicht gesagt hätte. Es war für mich klar, meine Mutter ist da nicht schuld. Das ist das System, es liegt an den anderen. Da wirst du absolut mitleidlos. Du siehst am Ende nur noch dich. So ein Tag, der kann länger sein als ein Monat in Torgau.
Very well. Mike Plitt and Falk Schuster, would you tell the audience that didn't see the film what it is about?
So thanks for having us. The movie is about the institutional educational system in the GDR. So basically it tells the story of one juvenile who had to go through the systems. You have to know that in the GDR, if you didn't fit a certain pattern when it comes to being a socialist personality, the youth welfare services could intervene at any moment, and that took place with Alexander. So he was taken from his mother at a very young age, and he went through the system. And he ended up at the most infamous juvenile workhouse, which is Torgau, and he is a so-called two-timer. So he went there 2 times, and yeah, this basically marked the rest of his life.
Okay, your film is in the Mitteldeutscher Wettbewerb, and it's nominated for the Short Film Prize for Democratic Culture, Voll Politisch, and this screening will be right in 20 minutes. So that's why let's just go into our subject of representing trauma before we present all the other filmmakers and the films. Our subject is very easy to understand. How can you represent trauma in film with cinematic with your cinematic instruments and possibilities to express in film, and also a trauma that maybe other people are not familiar with. I don't know if you both are familiar with, but I suppose not, with this trauma. So you first had to get to know it yourself, and then you had to put it on screen that everyone understands what's going on. How did you do that?
So, Mike is the writer for the story. I came to the story through my part as a director. So he contacted Alex, and he had contact to our protagonist, and I heard this voiceover, and the first thing
I was thinking about was how to bring his personality into not into a concrete form, so to keep him, yeah, and not anonymous, but to bring this in a shape, because Alex stands for a lot of other
Use detainees.
yeah. So we tried to bring this drama in an abstract form, because I had no idea to bring in a talking head and into the scene, or to try to use. It was clear for us not to use something like reenactment. So at first we discussed about how to use the original footage we are able to use from Torgau, and to bring this. Our drama is more in the middle, like the middle of the film is the drama in Torgau, and in this system, and the beginning and the end is more familiar. So we had this story is like in 3 parts. In the beginning it's more colorful, a bit warm. It's about family. You hear some sounds and you see some Christmas time, the former GDR Christmas time, and in the end you see Alex and his parents on the end. So we create this drama in 3 parts and try to use abstract form. This was the first idea, and everything else came by doing. So our compositing artist Julian is here, and it was like a transforming. We were in discussion about how to bring shapes for the Wärter, so
For the guards.
for the guards, and we try to find shapes for all this young. Ich habe schon das Wort nicht für die Insassen.
Inmates.
Yeah, inmates. So this was our way to come near to the story.
I mean, so obviously you, as filmmakers, are handling, someone else's traumatic experience. So I was kind of wondering what kind of relationship you built up with Alex, and what responsibility you kind of felt in handling his story.
Yeah, I mean, you had a relationship to him.
Yeah. So basically, he is one of 4 former inmates at Torgau that I interviewed, which was quite a tough task, because most of them weren't able to talk about the trauma like in a coherent way. So, just like, it's like taking bodies out of the attic, and, I had different experiences with the people. People actually I probably would never meet in everyday life, because sometimes they live very excluded. They don't want to interact, they don't want to really talk about it. So this was also a problem, when you got the feeling after 15-20 minutes, doesn't make any sense to talk to you. It's just painful for you. I won't be able to use it. It was good to meet you, and but we tried to, basically what we did, or what I did before meeting anyone. Of course, I called them, so we spoke. I made clear what my intentions are. I'm gonna dig deep. I'm really gonna dig deep. You have to know. We can stop at any moment, but be sure once I come, I'm gonna ask all the questions. And with Alex, we spoke for, this is an 8-minute movie, we spoke for 5 hours. So, yeah. But there were also people that, some were taking medication because of the time in Torgau. So, actually didn't make any sense. So, there were some trips, but it helped to develop the movie anyway, because, you just basically see what they went through and what the system did. Because it's a mark on your life. You won't get rid of it.
And how did you kind of come to this subject matter in the first place?
So basically, I'm a historian. I worked at university, and later just basically decided I want to make movies. And I knew that this part of GDR history was very underrepresented, because you have to know it's like whether it's children in the youth system of this GDR, or it's basically any kids in any orphanage. They don't have a lobby, so basically no one speaks up for them. So I knew that this was a subject that might interest people, and sometimes you always have these reports like coming in every 2-3 years about abuse in different orphanages and stuff. So actually, this hit quite a nerve. Yeah.
Just to say, if you want to say something or ask a question, you just give me a sign. We always try to look around, or the other filmmakers. I would just have a last question, and then we have already to go on. My question would be, as the film is now ready, what was the reactions of people that are that lived through this Jugendwerkhof Torgau on the film, and what are the reactions of people that didn't know what this is at all?
So it's hard to generalize. I mean, there were different reactions. For us, it was important that Alexander is well represented, and he was happy with the result. So he was very happy, and just there's no. I mean, kids who went through the system. If you had like really bad parents, beating on you and stuff, and you went to this institutional system, and through some chance you might have met people, guards, that were actually quite humane. This experience actually might have been better than just being raised by your abusive parents. So there are kids that actually went through the system and they say, "No, you're just lying. Actually, it wasn't that bad at all. So you're exaggerating and stuff." So it's not one-sided, So in this community, and it's actually, if you can say it's a community, because people are dealing with the issues, and so there are different fronts. But if you want me to, I mean, it sounds corny, but it was well received.
Well, then thank you, and we can see your film now, not because we are here and you are in the screening, but in the evening. And yeah, there will be the big night. That is a huge event, by the way. Mitteldeutsche Filmnacht, since years, and there's music, there are a lot of people, a lot of films, all the filmmakers are present. So this is an opportunity tonight, and if someone doesn't go to the award ceremony parallel to the award ceremony on Saturday evening, there will be another screening that I have the luck to present. Okay, then, good luck. Now I'm full film.
Yes. And sorry, we have to leave. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your
See you
film.
around.
You can have a seat there, and now, yeah. Maybe let's start with an international filmmaker.
So are we just going to do it one film by film and then go from there? Are we?
I would now go through all the films, and later we would all talk together.
Okay,
Yeah?
sure. Okay. So on my right, I have Mo, who's the director of Will My Husband See Me? So maybe you'd like to say a few words about your film, and we'll see a clip.
So the film is like 28 minutes. It's a short film, made in 2022, and now we can see the clip.
So firstly, maybe you could talk a little bit about what led you to actually make this film.
You know, it was really spontaneous making this film. I just wanted to make another short film in Somalia, and immediately that topic came to my mind because it was always somehow there in my life. So I started writing, and the writing was very quick. It was like a month, and I think everything happened like in less than a year. So I can say the film was just there in a way. So there was not really that much.
I mean, maybe for the audience, you should give a brief description of what the film is about.
Okay. I'm really bad in this, so I really don't know how to pitch this film because I feel like whatever I say, I'm spoiling the film. So that's the problem, and because there are like different perspectives in this film, I don't know which one to choose. I know the one that I want to choose, but then I feel like I would be unfair to the other character in a way. So let's say it's just about this young guy who's convicted to death penalty, and then there's this lady who's a prison guard who's following him, during the last like procedures that he has to go through. I would say that, and it's really sounds boring, but I don't know.
But I would say that also for a film that is about a highly emotive subject matter, it's a film that kind of almost like kind of for the most part until sort of towards the end rejects obvious emotional responses. It keeps things at a distance, and it lacks any kind of like effect. And what was your motivation in kind of portraying such, like I said, such an emotive subject in such a kind of remote and kind of like objective kind of way?
I just wanted that the impact and the end of the film to be very big, and for that to happen, I wanted that the audience should be. I should condition the audience in a way that they feel they are safe, and when I have them in that conditioning, then let them fall at the end of the film. That was one aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
and the other aspect is like I don't want you to feel pity or this and then, or even feel like emotional and then close off, because the topic's a really hard topic. So I want you to be with me until the end. So these were like, in a technique way, the motivation of the story. So yeah.
Because it's also a style that I guess you've used in other films, like Life on the Horn as well. Like, it has a similar kind of, it's like your style as well.
I think I don't know if I would call it style, my style. It's just that these two stories needed that because I don't want you to, because I didn't want the people to watch the film and then then go out and that's it. I want it to have some kind of. I want you to think, going out of the cinema, to think like, oh fuck, even if you don't know why, even if you don't understand it, but at least that it kind of makes you busy, at least in the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes, because then if I achieve that, then you will go and Google for yourself. So that's why, and Google yourself for whatever the topic of the film is, and that's why the style is in a way emotionally detached, at the same time not really giving you that much information, because I want you to look for, or not giving you all the answers, because I want you to also look for yourself, because if I achieve that, then if you look for yourself, then that's like great, and then he will go on.
Yeah.
So instead of me giving you answers in the film, so it's really the stories needed that, it's not the style, and because the form is really short, it's like how much impact can you have in that, short story, and one of the reasons, like, really having this kind of transcendental style of filmmaking, which like, bringing you, into the film, and trying to let you forget about your daily life and the baggage that you have outside, and then when I have you in that position, then you will really watch the film actively, and the impact would even be more.
I mean, one of just to change tack a little bit, but like one of the things that the film, it's a film about process and institutional process, and I mean, obviously, I have no way of knowing, but the film feels very, very well researched. And what kind of work did you do before putting pen to paper to get that process correct and precise?
Luckily or unluckily, I didn't really need to research for this. It was in a way part of, I knew a lot.
Okay.
And the film's not like really saying, like, it's not like 100%, whatever you see is not like 100% how it happens. It's just that sometimes I'm just to show maybe the absurdity of this whole thing, that I'm putting some things also here and there, but like overall, it's the way it is. So I didn't need to research. So that's why the process was also writing very fast.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as you don't leave us, we can come back. And let's proceed now maybe with you, Jan Köster. Einmal wieder dieser Junge sein. A film that was premiered at the prestigious Dogfest Leipzig last November. Maybe let's see the extract of the film.
Als ich 8 war, hat meine Mutter angefangen zu trinken. Also sie hat mich gekidnappt, in eine andere Stadt gebracht. Sie hat mich schwören lassen, dass ich bei ihr bleibe, und sie hat mich viel geschlagen in der Zeit und hat mich tyrannisiert. Sie war sehr schwierig, wenn sie trank. Sehr aggressiv. Völlig unberechenbar.
Okay, for those of us who didn't see the film, maybe you want to add something, maybe even if it is autobiographical, and say maybe something about the technique that you used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this wasn't planned. I tried to get away from making it autobiographic first. I had the illusion that I could do an abstract film about male bodies, why they're so blocked or whatever, and then I found out that I need to talk about that violence too when I talk about that subject. So it was a bit the process. And what I used was original childhood photography, and then I filmed myself reenacting movement patterns connected to these photos, and then I was just mapping the photos on these films with an effect, and so they get distorted by my dancing or moving. Yeah. So I really tried to get back to the patterns of movement a lot, that are connected to the violence and to the shutting down.
That might be interesting. This film as an example to represent trauma that you maybe lived through yourself, and now from the perspective of someone who knows the subject and all the feelings that come with it, have to present it in a way that other people understand it. So let's come back to this next in our discussion, and let's maybe continue with Dear Martha from Martin Pflanzer, an animation film. Could we see the extract?
Confused in the past. Overnight, our hair was denounced because it was hair, and our voices were banned. We spent our summers and winters under a black chador. Our skin grew yellow in the stifling pit. From being silent, our voices grew mute in our chest. Each time one of us dared to sing or to show her face or her hair, the pit police came at the speed of light and hit her with the Sharia mallet on the head.
Thank you. Those of us who follow a little bit what's going on in Iran might guess already what it is about. Maybe Martin, you want to add something about your film?
Yes, the film is, as you have seen, about Iran and especially the women in Iran and all the people who are now fighting for their freedom on the streets. And this began last year, I think, in September, October, around this time. And I know a writer from Iran, Ayeda Alavi. She's a good friend of mine, and she was very moved by this situation, and she told me very much. And because she's a writer, she told me that she cannot find words for this, but one day she came and she told me she wrote a poem about this, about her feelings, and I read this poem and immediately I had pictures in my mind, and then I decided to make this animation film, and this was a process about 1.5 months or 2 months, and I animated it by myself, and also together with friends, Claudia Kaiser, who translated the poem from Iranian to English and also read it or recited it for the film, and also Harald Vorbruck, who is now here, also a good friend of mine, and he made the music. So it was a very little familiar team, and we wanted to also to participate in this movement of giving the people from Iran a voice, or to also tell about this topic and put the interest of the audience more on this very important freedom fight.
Okay. Yes, I just put the question in that we will answer later after we maybe present all the filmmakers that came to mind immediately, but I didn't know that the poet was a friend of yours, because sometimes discussions about representing trauma goes around in Germany. We call it Deutungshoheit, and in Germany, in English, it would be sovereignty of interpretation. So this is what one sometimes hears about when you didn't live it through yourself, or when you are not part of a minority group, you should not speak about it. Or questions like this arise sometimes, and that would be a question that I would have. Maybe let's come to this later and continue with an international film.
So on my left, I have Chi and Gregor. Is that correct? Is Gregor? Yeah. And their film, The Lighting, is in international competition. Do you know when it's screening, or is it today?
Yesterday also. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think we're going to have a clip, and then the two of you are going to explain what The Lighting is all about.
Et c'est maintenant à nous de nous adapter, ou soit à créer nos propres appareils photo, si c'est possible en fait.
I will just quickly introduce this film. And I don't know, many of you might be also the fans of, 70 Kung Fu film from, like, you might know this is like extract from Enter the Dragon. It's okay that you don't know, it means you're very young. And the reason I want to show this part is just because this was made by a 60mm film, which is called Etachrome, and it was used before we are using digital camera today. It was one of the main and most attractive film people were using before 90s, and until Kodak, the company from America, released a new film called True Color in 90s. Before that, it was the main material we record everything. And I intentionally used this film just because before 90s, there was a big problem that actually this film, how it was produced, cannot, or I would say there was a problem that people were criticizing that it cannot present all the skin color tone, because the chemical things which was used mainly, which today we call Shelly Girl. There's a kind of it's a color card. They use white female as a model from Kodak company and distribute to around the world. And around the world, every print shop or photo shop, they have to use this Shelly card to develop their film, which means all around the world they have to use a white female, this model as the skin color tone as a standard, and that produced a big problem before. And we intentionally use this to discuss. Also, you see there's a color top. Color top this spinning things. It was a very old technique how human beings at the very beginning, when they're traveling to the far lands, they measure the skin color. So you can see this film is about the problem how we perceive and how we produce image. And in the film, which you didn't see, is we interview the engineer who actually from Taiwan. They provide a solution for a company from China called Techno. If you've ever visited to, I think, so mainly me and Gregor, we do research in West Africa, but what I know is in the whole African continent today, the most popular phone is called Techno phone. And you don't see this phone here is because this company, they only sell their phone in Africa. And this phone got very popular since 2017 and 18 because they developed a specific and very special algorithm which can make your selfie, your skin looks brighter. And that solution was developed by this engineer company in Taiwan. And we interviewed this engineer, how the process and how they create the archive to make this algorithm. Of course, the AI today, especially since last December, is probably evolved into another level, which might not be compared to the film which we were making from 2018 to 2021. But I think there will be still a lot of topics we can go through later. Yeah.
Okay, then let's come to the last film, right? And this is called Beben. Rudolph Fitzgerald Leonard will present this short film. You are the director, and here we have your partner Annika Dürgel, and it doesn't. Okay. Okay. Rudolf and Annika make this film together. You are working always together, and you change. Sometimes you are the producer, sometimes you are the director, and now you are the director. And yeah, this film is in the national competition, and let's just see the extract. Okay, for those who didn't see the film, Rudolf, could you summarize it?
Certainly, certainly. So I'd first just like to say that this is a film made as part of a collaboration between, indeed, Annika Bürgel, my producer, and co-writer, and also the lead actor and co-writer, Louis Brandt. And the film was developed over the course of a number of years, 4 years all up. Which began as an exploration of relationship between a therapist and their patient, and the process of healing, and the process of the loss of trust, and the fragile nature of a relationship between somebody, and the process of healing from physical trauma, but also from or at least, if not healing, learning to live alongside a chronic illness and a chronic physical condition. And this was a film that was the confluence of a number of different personal relationships that each of the writers brought towards the topic, personal experiences that shaped the narrative over the course of a couple of years, to being something that we felt adequately represented what the process of living alongside trauma, both the interior experience of after trauma is sustained in both a physical and an emotional sense, and what the average day-to-day experience of ruminating over trauma or traumatic incidences actually feels like and sounds like and looks like. So these different intersecting layers of the interior and the exterior, the explicit traumatic events that shape us, but also the times in between where we're with ourselves and with our own reflections on these moments in our lives.
I think actually when I wasn't part of the, I only watched it for the first time the other week because I'm not part of the committee. But one of the things that actually talking about the outer and the inner, you know, one of the things that struck me was actually the amount of subjectivity in the film, and it kind of, I felt that was a very good empathetic kind of technique to kind of, I feel like a lot of films that deal with trauma can quite often feel voyeuristic, you know, and actually that was one of the things that really impressed me. And I was wondering how, I mean, you said it was a very long process of development. I mean, what could you maybe guide us through some of the specifics? Because I mean, it sounds like they're obviously, is it the character Leon, is that correct? Like Leon feels like a kind of bit of an avatar, or maybe a kind of representative of several people that you, and you know, and going back to the question that I asked earlier on, you know, what was it like holding that responsibility?
Sure.
And there's a number of things all jumbled up.
Yeah,
so
no, sure.
I
understand your point. Yeah, this was the question of the responsible and authentic representation of what it is the three of us, Anneke, Lewis, and myself, had experienced in our lives or feared to experience, was something at the core of pretty much all of our conversations. Does this feel like something that we... Does Leon's actions within the film feel authentic to something that we can relate to or not? The process of creating what we hope to be a fairly intimate experience, and an experience where we're brought very near to our central character and to their sensitivity to the world around them, was something that just developed with time, developed as our relationship developed to one another. Anneke and I, as you said before, Eric, have worked together in the past and will continue to do so in the future as a collaborative partnership. But this was our first time working with Lewis, and Lewis's first time in front of the camera, writing. It was new territory for him, and this relationship, as it grew and became a friendship, as well as a collaborative partnership, really helped strengthen and deepen the levels at which we're able to plumb together.
Yeah, so actually, yes, as he worked as a co-author, so the question that I had before, can we really talk about it if if we are not part of the minority that is really concerned with this? In this case, it's not a trauma. In this case, it's a disability, but the trauma is subject also of the film. Can we really talk about it? Maybe let's come back to dear Martin Pflanzer. What would you say about this? Yeah, except the poet, you are all not connected to Iran, and you're talking about this subject.
Yes, I think when you want to make a film, you have to have something to say, surely, and you have to know about the topic. And in my case, I know much about this topic, also political, but also emotionally, because she told me very much about it. And I think then, on the other hand, it's allowed to do this because it's not on the first. The first thing is not that it's a film about Iran or about a country which I'm not born in, or I don't know that much about it, but it's also a film about people. And I think through empathy, we can also say important things, come to important ideas about also cultures, or not cultures, or don't know, about perhaps things we had not lived but by ourselves. Yes.
It's interesting that you use the word allowed. You should be allowed to do this, and when I can permit myself a personal opinion, yes, I'm completely with you there, that as we as human beings are able of empathy, so of course we should be allowed to talk about things that are human, that maybe do not concern us. It's just a question how to deal with it, but not are you allowed to deal with it or not. But I know that there exist other opinions, yes.
I know, I understand. I understood the question this way.
Yes.
Because the way how we dealt with it, I can also talk about this. Because this was the work, the process of making the film, and it was very close also with the author, and we tried to show this inner world of the people who are oppressed in Iran, and the film is only 5 minutes. So, and there we have this rhythm and these themes given by the poem, by the text, and there we come from one thing to another, and there are many transitions. So Übergänge. I think it's transitions, and this was the fascinating thing, or for me the most the hard work to get from one status to another status, also visual in the animation, but this is also, I think, a inner process. When you are working on a trauma, you are in a state of mind, and then after time you come to another, and this is the most interesting thing from a psychological view. And so this is a film about these transitions.
And I know we don't have time for this, but just a question for interest. Did you have a budget for this film? Because I didn't see any film school or funding. No budget.
Wow. I done this by myself and with the help of 3 friends.
Oh, great! All the more, I wish you a very big success with this. Yeah.
Thank you. This is already a success that it's shown here in Dresden, because this is our our success is if we can point on this on this important theme and give the people who are fighting really brave for their freedom to unterstützen, to support them with getting this known, and also perhaps from other countries if this will be better known, there comes also help for their fight for freedom.
By the way, when we discussed your film in the national committee for the national competition, we have one of our committee members is an animation specialist, and he said, "Oh, finally, good animation film." Because when you see 500 films, yes, so he was quite impressed with it, and so this is already that was already the first impression.
Thank you. I never done such a thing before, and everything fit together for this project because I thought this really makes sense, and so I spent every minute of my free time in these 2 months to make this film because I really wanted it. It was really so. Now I'm coming back to the beginning of your when you asked me why. Can you do this even if you're not in this person who had the trauma? I think you can do it if you have really something to say. And this was for me and the whole team. We really had this feeling of we can do something with this film and we can say something, and this brought us forward.
So, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is that the majority of the filmmakers present all mostly deal in kind of more personal storytelling. So I just wanted to quickly ask, actually, Chi and Gregor, like, obviously you're looking more at an oppressive system or a technological system, and it's a huge subject, even when I was researching the subject matter beyond watching the film, it's a huge area of academic study, and I kind of was interested in, the film contains many different aesthetics and ideas in it, and what your research process was in bringing these elements together.
And maybe I can start, and then maybe Gregor can go detail of our working methods, because we are deeply working together with a lot of topics. But I think for especially this film, or in general our practice, is also back to a question we are all holding camera, we are using the camera today here. We are all filmmakers in many ways. But then what the question is about is the tool of the master, right? We are holding the camera, but we never look at the camera. And the very famous French film critic Serge Gagny, he has a sentence I think quite interesting for me, was he mentioned that today somehow the camera kind of turned into the compass. Camera turned into a compass that point out always to the south, because south is not necessarily a geographical south, but south could be a place also contain violence or any kind of thing. So south is the place where we produce the stories, and we are holding a camera, and all holding the camera point to the south. This camera become a compass for us to see where the story happened, right? And I think for us, we are also interesting, come back to this question of this tool of the master who create this tool. And also, for example, if we also mention about technology today, or how the filmmaking today with this AI, we also don't know where's our work in the future. How can we produce film? How can we produce animation in the future? I mean, probably some of us here is already worried about our career, but then this AI or this counting capacity also controlled by whom? That also would be probably the question for the tomorrow. I guess that's some of my initial interest, how we started this project. Maybe Gregor also can share some of your opinion.
Yeah, so as Chi already said, we are working on different
project for a very long time and also parallel. So normally we are doing a lot of projects together so we are both artists and filmmakers. So sometimes we're doing like more in the art context and sometimes more in the film. And sometimes we are like both like co-directors. And for this film, Jean was a director and I was a producer. And we are doing a lot in West Africa, in Togo and in Ghana for some projects relate to German colonial history and some for the electronic e-waste recycling. And also chief for this film was a research about this techno phones. And yeah, so like we are as a team, we are like as a white person and a person of color, and also when we're working in Togo on this e-waste, we're also working with a filmmaker and musician from Togo, Elon Wang. He's a black person, so it's also like in our working context, we're also like dealing with like different power structures and histories and different perspective on this colonialism and the traumas from colonialism. So for us it's also always like a question like how we can work together and how like also through our working together we also can maybe develop some methods for broader public to work together and to deal with this big histories and big traumas together. And also for one project we are working in Togo about the German colonial history. We're also working together with people who are living next to an old German colonial station, and we're working on this film for more or less 5 years because it has some practical reasons, but also like methodology, so that we could come there just for 1-2 times, make a film and then go. But also for us, it's important that we come there and we get to know the people. We're coming back, and so also through this time and to slow down, you also can break some of these like structures and these hierarchies and to challenge it. So this film like takes very long. It could have been done faster, but through this slowing down, and then we are thinking and hoping that we can like make some small differences. But it's also like an experiment and a trying, and so this is like a long try out.
And I mean, are you still? I mean, it feels very much like with this film that, in regards to looking at, like especially around topics like facial recognition technology, there's so much more kind of, I guess, darker material that can be mined there. You know, in terms of like broader socio-political uses of that technology in terms of racial profiling and like, you know, racial biases relating to police violence, and I didn't know whether that was a route that you were also looking at, or whether that was considered for this film, or was, because I mean the film in a number of ways is quite humorous at times, and it's quite light, and it's kind of very self-aware. But yeah, I didn't know whether that was also a subject matter that kind of was relevant to your research.
I do think it's an important topic. Oh yeah, maybe I did. Yes, I think it's very because it does. I mean, we couldn't really show all the footages, but we did go through some, like you say, this kind of digital light and digital racialization of how digital might produce problem in our social systems. And it's not wondering that why, and probably also happening right now, a lot of this kind of the most pioneer and most usable techniques are produced or are exported from China, because it's quite well used as a daily practice in their societies. And also I try to understand more also because also the climate, the political climate between islands where I come from and also the mainland, right? And also we have been seeing so many things happening in Hong Kong since the last few years. And I guess because you mentioned about these humorous, I guess I can especially answer this question here because I guess it's hardly for most people who are not grow up with Hong Kongese film to understand this humorous part. I don't like any of you actually watched Stephen Zhou's film? No, right? Okay, anyway. So you have to understand from, I guess, 90s to 2000, even I think to today, Hong Kong used to be a film industry center. It's called like Eastern Hollywood for a very long time. And they developed a very kind of B-style class humorous film style to talk about their life. The reason of that is their life is under kind of very contradictory situation between two hegemonies, which is British colonization and Chinese. I wouldn't call that colonization, but another kind of hegemonies. So they are a group of people who actually cannot choose their future, and they also have no freedom to talk in many ways. So they developed this practice for using ironical film languages to reflect their life. And that's kind of really well presented by a filmmaker called Stephen Zhou. You might can find his name in Netflix. And I think because I kind of grew up in this era in Asia, you know, like maybe, for example, in West Africa might be influenced by Nollywood. And in Taiwan and in Hong Kong, we are really influenced also by this kind of Hong Kongese, very bitter, humorous Hong Kongese kind of style. So I guess I kind of integrate these film languages into my film production. And I also think it's a good strategy, you know, to talk about the topic which might be heavy, but for also many audience who probably far from this topic to get kind of just get into, you know, this topic, and then you can search further, Google it by yourself. Like I think Mo also mentioned, maybe yesterday you want to bring, you will let the, I know you just mentioned it, like people after 20 minutes, people might walk out the film theater and start to Google by yourself. That probably also is part of my intention. Yeah.
Thank you. I think you said you needed to leave at 6. Is that? Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. It's gone 6. Sorry.
I was trying to be polite.
You could have just run. Like.
Okay, but let's just not to leave all. We will finish anyway because also we have to eat the sandwiches. They are barely touched. So I would like to come back. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you.
To Jan Köster, because it's a special case. Maybe you even say, no, trauma is not the term I would use, but as we are talking of trauma and it's a very personal film, how do you work as an artist, as a filmmaker, to putting a personal story into film and trying to show and to people that didn't live through it. I think I could have made it more elegantly, but as it's not my mother language,
I mean,
you will all.
First of all, I would absolutely talk about trauma. I mean, that's what it was.
Yes.
The next thing is, I think it's impossible. And what you said about minorities, that you cannot talk about a minority that you're not part of yourself. For me, it's the opposite, and I think that I can only talk to the minorities in a way. That when I show my film, sometimes I have people coming to me afterwards, and normally it's people who lived through it too. Like that's big. I mean, that's really what. Like when I get a lot of really emotional reactions, that's people that had that too in their childhood. And normally what they say is like kind of thank you. Really, I saw myself in there. And what they want is to be seen. And I think that as a kid, of course, that's a big problem when you have with every kind of abuse is that people don't want to see it. So there are people that could see it, obviously teachers, friends, but it's easier to not. And also, what would they do? And even as a child, I already knew that it's hard to react from the outside. But what I want to say is, these people really understand what I'm talking about on a different level than somebody who hasn't been abused. And I think this is not something that I can ever explain. I mean, maybe talking about physical abuse is even more easy than talking about psychological abuse, what's a very abstract thing to talk about. And it's easier to say, oh, I had a bad time because I was beaten up. But I think the psychological abuse was much worse, and I think people know who had this, and people who didn't go through it, they don't understand. And I'm not really sure that it's important, that it's possible to really bring them to the same place. I'm not sure that this is possible. Yeah.
But you can try, and you can anyway. It still can help to open up people for a subject that they never confronted themselves, right? And how did you do this, or what were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it was a bit like where I can do a film to show people that this exists in our society, and also it exists in all levels of our society. And maybe I don't know, but maybe it's also a bit too, I don't know, maybe that's very optimistic to think like that, you know? That people who know someone and they're like, okay, you know, there's a kid, and I know my friends have a kid, and maybe they don't treat it well or whatever, maybe they look closer after they see that film, you know? Maybe, you know, in some occasions, and of course I would love that to happen, you know? That there is a bigger understanding of the situation, and that some children are just in positions, also in our society, right next door, that children are in positions where they don't know how they can help themselves, and they're super scared, and they don't know how to get out, and they need someone to see it, to start doing a change, whatever that can be.
During the making of the film, I mean, obviously you manipulate, you know, you have this you mapped yourself onto this home archive footage. I mean, how was the process of revisiting that archive? You know, I mean, this raw material that was filmed when you were younger.
First, I loved to see it all again, but after a while, the reenactment became re-traumatizing, and I didn't expect this. I was like, no, that's all the past and whatever. But then really doing these movements had a bitter note that I didn't see coming so hard. So there was really a point also in the film where I had to stop, where I had to be like, okay, maybe I can get even pictures that are even more on point or whatever, but I just need to close that case again and let it rest. It's the present. And I live in the present, and it's over, and it's good that it's over. So it's also a bit this, and this came after like maybe 3 or 4 months of reenactment. Yeah, that point.
That feels like a very long time to be living with that material, but you know, thank you for sharing it. And are you still a dancer, by the way?
Yeah. I mean, I really literally had that phase of dancing in my sleeping room alone without anyone knowing also, because I think I really had to do it for myself, so it wasn't possible to tell anyone. Anyways, and I stopped doing that, like after a while. And first I was a bit worried, like, do I lose it again? But I do it in clubs now, and that's also fine.
Sorry, I have also a question to you, because I didn't saw the whole film, but the excerpt. And when I understand it right, you did this distortion through mapping pictures over your dancing movements, something like this. And I asked myself, how big is the connection for you between the emotion and these movements? Because I think that every scene, I saw it in the excerpt, I think every scene between every cut has a special thing it wants to say, and it does this through a movement. And I think this dancing movement is kind of connection between this internal world and this visual world, which I'm thinking about much. And so
yes, I mean, of course, the movements. I mean, really, I was also trying to dance like I did as a kid, because as a kid I danced, and then that stopped. After the violence, it really stopped. Complete full stop. I was super scared at school parties when there was dance. I wanted to run away. Crazy. And then I was really moving. I tried to remove as ridiculous as I moved as a kid. So really go back and be like, and it was impressive how I got back to the way I felt also. So bringing myself in the position of the movements and dance, like of the states, like I could also bring my brain back to that point. So that followed, like it was, and maybe it was more. I just wanted to do it, and then it had this effect. I didn't plan it, but of course it also made it easier to talk about everything then, because I was like living it again. I was like, yeah, that was what was hard about it, like because I felt it again, just by moving like it. And also my co-director, absolutely forgot to mention that I have a co-director, Lisa. She's probably joining us on Saturday, and actually we reenacted violence. We started to reenact that a bit, and I was getting super scared of her, quite quick, and we had to stop. That was really a no-go. We did that one afternoon, and there was no. Like even it was like friendly, right? I mean, she wasn't really, of course, she was careful, but and this is like you can really see how the body is like being like, no, never again. That's not possible. We cannot even act it like playful.
Yeah, it feels a little bit awkward to rush through the films like that. I really recommend you to see them. And you can ask us after our discussion now where we can see them all. Yes. So if there's no very important question, I think, Thomas, we will end it here, and we will have another sandwich or two, and then we can maybe talk amongst us. Thank you that you came, you and you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.